It's the Bush League Mud Show.
It's the Bush League Mud Show. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Make some noise!
Right, yo, what is going on is another edition of the Bush League Mud Show. Slade,
PJ,
coming at you. This is the week in review show. Also throwing in a little SmackDown and some Aew Rampage as well. Our very first Bush League Mud Show News and Tidbits edition of 2022. We're going to run down some business as usual stuff with WWE in terms of some releases to kick off 2022. We'll also get into some sweet Saudi stuff with WWE as they've reportedly reached a new deal. There's a celebrity from a lot of people's childhood that recently ripped the current WWE product. We get also some plans that were supposed to be going down with Jeff Hardy as it relates to WWE and NXT before his release. We'll also get into some AEW news and notes as well. But first, be sure to listen and subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and also hit us up on social media, Bush League MS Pod. All right, so this is episode 30. We're coming up on 1 year of Bush League Mud Show shows, and we
check the shit out. I mean,
preferably,
if I'm
we
going
would
to
like
cut
you
a
to
promo, I'll be the heel manager promo here. Check it out. We've been working our ass off for a year, or telling you BS for a whole year.
Well, where do we start? Do we go ahead and we start with the releases? One particular person that's been released now twice in the last year by the same company. I mean, what is
no new year, new me thing for WWE? They're just going to just keep on future endeavoring.
More than 80 people on the main roster, just between all of the brands, talent roster-wise, over 80 that were released last year in 2021 by the company. They kicked off with some releases. Now, the first one, technically, as you say, Toni Storm, if you want to count. I mean, that was before actual New Year's.
Technically or not? Because she
asked for it. She was not like future endeavor.
She wasn't. I'm out of here.
She just said, fuck it, I'm out of here.
I think that's a different class we now have to start.
According to Ric Flair, he's talked to a lot of people in the back, and they told him that she left because she was exhausted and working a lot of long matches, not just on TV but on the road.
Well,
by
Rick's
a lot of people
in the back too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. By a lot of people, I'm going to assume he means his daughter, who Toni Storm just so happened to be working with before she left.
Yeah.
But anyways, more than 80 wrestlers last year. We kicked it off this year. Samoa Joe. These were releases, by the way, that went down yesterday, January 6th. Samoa Joe, for the second time in 2 years, let go by the company. He previously was brought back to work as a recruiter for the WWE Performance Center, and he began appearing on screen. They ran the angle there with William Regal having some trouble with Karrion Kross. He wanted Joe to come back and take his place as GM, and Joe said, no, can't do that. I'll just be your assistant for a little bit until I can get my hands on Kross. So finally, we got that angle out of the way. Now they both are out of the company. Well, all three are out of the company because William Regal also got released as well. So all three of those heavy hitters for NXT at that time around that angle, they're no longer there. Samoa Joey quickly relinquished it due to an undisclosed injury, if you remember as well, after he had defeated Karrion Kross for that NXT title.
Yes.
They took it off of him with the quickness at an undisclosed injury, and we never saw him on TV again after that. So we basically had him go over on Karrion Kross because we assumed Kross was going to come to the main roster, do some damage, and we just didn't do anything with it at all. We put it in an open thing. We created NXT 2.0, and here we are. So,
well, we had Joe, too, going on scouting trips as of just like 2 weeks ago with William Regal. They showed a photo on this online of him, scouting some future NXT potential talent. So, I mean, they had plans with him, using him as a scout and everything. I don't know what the hell's happened here in the last week. I mean, they just want to rip everything TripleH has put together in the last 8 years up and just start from scratch. And I got to say, I don't see NXT around in 2 years.
Even with the 2.0 format.
Even with this 2.0 shit, I think
they've gone into the demographics,
away.
And this was supposed to be the young, hip show. That's what NXT was supposed to be. And it turns out that their key demo, where they were getting numbers from the most, were the very older part of the demo. This is the black and gold NXT. So they transformed it, rebranded it into what it is now with 2.0. You look at the numbers, And it's still the same in terms of who's viewing it the most. It is the upper echelon part of the demo, and not that 18 to 34 they were hoping for.
Yeah, and they killed off a lot of their audience. I mean, I don't think they're not getting in the 6s and 7s that they wish they were getting now. I mean,
and you're not going to when people have no idea who a majority of the roster is. And the main one that people do know who it is because he looks like his dad and his uncle.
Correct.
He actually looks like someone.
After he moves off, where do you go? The cupboard is really, I mean, I know they signed a lot of people.
NIL, baby.
And all that, but that's still going to take some time to get them. Those are college athletes that have no freaking idea. If you didn't fall into Braun Breaker right now, I don't know what the hell they'd be doing down there.
Yeah, if you don't like Braun Breaker, then there's no hope for this brand whatsoever. You might as well shut it down.
Yeah. It's like that. Remember, the women's division was just so awesome at NXT, and now it's...
Do we blame
doing weird shit, and it's just like
Do we blame NBC Universal USA Network for letting that cow leave the barn by giving them a TV time slot in the first place? Because at this point now, you've got advertisers on board. You just can't take it off the air. Personally, I would just love to see it strictly on the stream on Peacock if you want to watch NXT, because for it to be on live national television, that ain't it.
No, I agree with you. That's when they jumped the shark, per se, and that's when this all happened.
So we talked about Regal, and yes, he was a part of that as well, being released. His career started all the way back in '99. Remember the Real Man's Man?
Real Man's Man.
And in the trees, the brawny looking guy in the woods, and all that. Everything completely different from the snooty British snob that he was in WCW for all those years. But anyways, he ended up leaving the company. If you remember, the alcohol and the drugs, the substance, that was an issue. He left. He had gotten fired, came back around 2000. And then by then he came back and he had straightened up. He was a mid-carder. He had a reign as a World Tag Team Champ 4 times, actually. He was an Intercontinental Champ twice, European Champ 4 times, Hardcore Champ 5 times, King of the Ring. These are Hall of Fame numbers.
And he got over with every gimmick he had.
He did.
With everything they saddled him
I still will
with.
never forgive them for ever making him go out there in the fucking dress. That was a little uncalled for. But he got that shit over.
He got that over. I mean, just him and Taka. Now, why am I forgetting the name? When they would do the skits, Tajiri. Him and Tajiri were just gold back and forth.
Now, of course, he ended up, after the King of the Ring gimmick, he ended up leaving around about 2013, 2014 to be exact. He took over as the new GM for NXT, and that was the position that he pretty much held all the way up to his release, and then he worked backstage, as everyone knows. If you've seen them since they've been pulling the covers and the curtains back, he's one of the top guys there at the PC helping out. So he was the director of talent development and head of global recruiting as well. So as far as William Regal, a lot of people had nothing but great things to say. And, of course, there was some criticism on social media, online, in regards to the release of Regal. A lot of independent talent who have given him credit for getting their foot in the door at WWE, you know. So you hear, you know, the illusions always that it was Triple H, and I'm sure Triple H definitely played it, but a lot of them definitely say, hey, without William Regal, there's no way we could have broke in at that point. Liv Morgan also had some great things.
Back to that point, though, those two have been tied together since 95, since WCW, because that's when Regal and Terra Rising were met together, and that's where they first met up. And I mean, they've been a history forever.
And that gimmick carried over is the Hunter Hearst Helmsley snobby that came from. So,
I mean, they both have been joined, I guess, at the hip since then and been grateful for each other. And I mean, it's just sad to see this.
Yeah, in terms of William Regal, he did put out a couple of tweets. One of them was, thank you to WWE for a wonderful 21-year run. You gave me a lad who was happy in a wonderful wrestling on a carnival, have a charmed life for 21 years, no complaints, and please, no one waste time replying, as I won't have a bad word said against the company. He meant to say word, but he said work. So a little mistypings there. So if you're wondering, Slade, what the fuck are you talking about? Why are you on? Well, I'm only reading it as Regal put it on his Twitter. And then he ended up continuing. He added that I will add the WWE saved my life in 1999 when they didn't need to. They kept my family fed and took me all around the world. You have my gratitude forever. You allowed me to live a charmed life. So about as classy as everyone predicted out of Regal in terms of exiting the company. Not a bad word to say.
Yeah, and someone's got to scoop him up. If he's interested to keep on working this way, I mean, he's got to be the number one phone call out there with any talent roster you have to get him in board.
Another one, Road Dogg. Triple H is one of his longtime boys. Road Dogg on this list as well, and he wasn't the only member of his family that was a part of these releases. Road Dogg, Hall of Famer, consistently had been working backstage as a producer and a writer, as well as one of NXT's trainers. He ended up moving over around May of 2019 after he ended up leaving the SmackDown team. So he had been working on as a trainer on some in-ring promos and character development, and what was that, about the beginning of last year, around March, around the spring, he ended up suffering a heart attack, but he was back at work the following month, and he had been doing well health-wise as far as we know, but he was a part of that. His brother, referee Scott Armstrong, part of the releases, former WCW wrestler back in the day. He began working with the company back in 2006, and he eventually transitioned to a producer role. And he was initially furloughed by the company, actually, back in April of 2020 with those moves, but then he ended up coming back with the company that October of 2020. So that brings an end to his 15-year run with the promotion. Backstage employees that had got let go, part of these January 5th releases, Ace Steel, Chris Guy, real name, Performance Center coach, also Allison Danger, whose real name, Kathy Carino. She was also a coach. A couple of consumer products. Ranjin Singh, if you remember, the former manager of Great Khali and former senior vice president of creative, he got let go. Ryan Katz, creative producer who had been working with NXT since 2015. George Carroll, who was an NXT writer, and Gabe Sapolsky. This was confirmed yesterday that Gabe Sapolsky, who was working as a consultant and was basically the reason, the former owner and the reason why when you go on the Peacock Network, WWE has an Evolve catalog.
Yes, they do.
Thanks for the catalog, Gabe. See ya.
Yeah,
that's basically what this was.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. The whole thing. They thanked him. They got him on board. And again, this is the true demolition of just breaking up everything Triple H brought in, because him and Gabe had a good working relationship, and boom, it's gone.
Now, that was from the trainer or the familiar names on the list. Now, as far as some of the workers, not too many, but still some names that will definitely jump out at you. Timothy Thatcher, part of these cuts. He signed with the company in February of 2020. He got brought on to NXT television that April. And they put him in that tag team, if you remember, with Matt Riddle, while Pete Dunne was unable to defend the tag team championships with Riddle. So that was around the start of the COVID pandemic, and Dunne couldn't travel. So he went on to team with Tommaso Ciampa and ended up becoming a brutal heel on the roster. And he won the company's only 2 Fight Pit matches, and he ended up getting written off TV in August of 2021 with a storyline injury from Ridge Holland.
Yeah. I was wondering where he went, because all of a sudden, he's a pretty good worker, but apparently not the style they're looking for.
Yeah. Hideki Suzuki, a Japanese wrestler, he had signed with the company April of 2021 as a Performance Center coach, and then he had recently took on an on-screen role. He was a coach for the Diamond Mine faction.
That's right, yeah.
Danny Burch.
Yeah.
He had started working in developmental from about 2011 to 14. He ended up leaving, returned to the company around 2015. He started teaming with Oney Lorcan in 17, and then they eventually became NXT Tag Team Champions, and then they aligned themselves with Pat McAfee and Pete Dunne as the Kings of NXT. So Lorcan, he got released already by the company back in November and we had not seen Birch on TV since August. So there you go, your releases to kick off 2022, PJ.
And again, more bashing the NXT sign, we did do that on the pay-per-view, but it was kind of a foreseeable thing after they did that on TV. People were saying, well, that may have been a sign of things to come. And, a couple days later it was, with Braun Breaker kicking the old NXT logo before he won the championship. So I can't believe they got rid of Regal. Joe, again, it's strange. After they brought him back, it seemed like, again, these guys have got good qualities. They can help backstage. Road Dogg obviously has been for years as a producer, and he's also said he left it out there that he's taking bookings. February 8th is when he can start making dates. He's not lacing up the boots, but he'll come do speeches, appearances, and he threw out there that maybe there might be a reunion with Mr. Ass. He did not rule that out when a fan asked them on his Twitter.
These guys are still working in the ring, bringing up some of the upcoming tag. Yeah, they were still working about 3 years ago, maybe. But it's So, and Gunn's still in phenomenal shape. And when they got back together, Road Dogg is still good on the mic and still pulling off some of the trademark moves that he had been doing back in the Attitude Era. Now, that, as we know it, the black and gold NXT, you pretty much can say that it's done and over with. Shawn Michaels, the only one that we really know that's back there.
And we know Vince will not get rid of him. If anything, he'd find something else for him to do.
People have been wondering what's Triple H's role going to be that will be publicly known as soon as he comes back. No one really knows that, but we did end up seeing Triple H making his first television appearance since the cardiac event around later on of 2021. He ended up being on a recent edition of NBC News where he talked about the WWE's new NIL, the Next in Line program that was launched late last year. He talked about the new avenue for WWE that allows the athletes to earn money. He said, quote, to allow college students to sort of monetize and utilize their name, image, and likeness. It has opened up an avenue for us, he added. He said that this allows them to have that open door to earn money while in college. And as we know, this inaugural class they had announced several weeks ago, we got 15 athletes, 13 universities, 4 different sports. Gable Steveson was the first official to be signed up for the NIL program, and he's already going to start training full-time for the company after he finishes up college. Hell, he's already been drafted to Raw.
Yeah.
So he's got everything at his disposal there on the campus at the University of Minnesota.
And I guess his brother has been working some dark matches already. So,
and his brother originally signed before that. Now, that was not an NIL deal, though.
No, it wasn't. But, they're progressing to get them both, going on the roster here.
Yeah. WWE reportedly returning to Saudi Arabia next month.
Oh, no.
Yeah, WWE, they are holding their next event there on Saturday, February 19th. This is according to the Mat Men's Andrew Zarian. No word yet on the name of the event. Now, they last ran the Kingdom pay-per-view on October 21st of last year, 2021, for the Crown Jewel event. That was headlined by Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, plus that was also the finals of the King of the Ring tournament and the inaugural Queen's Crown tournament. I can't believe that was already almost about 3 months ago.
That's right, yeah.
But that event was held there. So that's what you're looking at right now. So more details to come in terms of the company doing business with the Saudis. Comments, do you really care about these? They go all out in terms of the presentation. You would think that it's Mania, but
I guess we'll see Goldberg making a comeback here.
Well, he's got one more match left. He does have one more match. He's been doing interviews lately, and he's talked about that. Macaulay Culkin, he is a person that is very synonymous. Well, if you're a 90s kid, you definitely know who that is, and he continues to keep his name floating around out there every now and then. How could you? People know those Home Alone movies. Well, he's been ripping ass lately on the current WWE product. He gave his thoughts on the current product and how the company has been presenting this to the fans. And like many fans, he's had a lot of critical things to say about it. Now, he was on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s podcast, Wrestling with Freddie. And he was not shy at all. He ended up voicing his opinion that there are just too many repetitive matches on WWE programming, such as, like, I don't know, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
Or the Usos versus the New Day, which we had again.
Yes, he said, quote, if I have to see one more fucking... Don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to seeing what will be different this time, but if I have to see Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns one more freaking time, you know. He also went on to point out the fact that how, due to a lack of depth on the roster, see, Macaulay Culkin gets it. He's a fan. You can tell by the way the verbiage
he's
here.
worked a couple matches, too, on the indies.
Well, he won at Rusev at Mania a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
Now, he talked about how, because of the lack of depth on the roster, the company has had no choice but to use these same matches for back-to-back pay-per-view events, such as New Day versus Usos, which we ended up getting on SmackDown.
Yeah.
He said, quote, that's the thing. They'll do the same pay-per-view back-to-back. It's always like New Day, Usos, like every freaking card. Like, I understand that their roster isn't as deep as it was a year ago. They've cut, I think, 86 wrestlers from their roster this past calendar year. So, yeah, you don't have this rich variety that you might have had before. But even then, man, it's like, how many times can we watch the same match over?
Well, it's the same people, though, on the roster. SmackDown, again, it's just, I mean, we'll get to it. But, again, just seeing the same layout, and it's almost like the same people are in at the same time slots. I can swear to God, Happy Corbin has been out at the 8 o'clock time slot now on SmackDown for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
With brutal segments.
With terrible segments, doing that talk show. And yeah, there's no fresh faces on here, and I agree with him. This is why it's gotten stale, and people are tuning it out.
Culkin also claims in the interview with Freddie Prinze that he has actually talked to the company a couple of times over a period of time about some creative ideas in terms from a fan's perspective and how he thinks that Raw and SmackDown should be separated even more in terms of the presentation because of the fact that you have different rosters, which I don't know for how much longer, because if you're going off the ending of SmackDown earlier tonight with Seth Rollins popping up backstage, then you couple of NXT 2.0 talents could be heading to the main roster pretty soon. This appears after Tommaso Ciampa recently was wrestling Pete Dunne in a dark match before Friday night SmackDown broadcast. And this was Ciampa, not that it really matters, but Ciampa ended up defeating Dunne. But Dunne and Ciampa, they're part of the old guard of the old black and gold NXT. So Dunne, he recently signed a new deal. He doesn't fit 2.0. Ciampa definitely doesn't, especially after now finally passing the torch and handing off the belt to Braun Breaker. He's done everything that you could have asked him to do at NXT. Yeah. Now, how much longer Ciampa will be around if he's main roster? He's been saying this for years, right? If he gets called up to the main roster, he doesn't think he can last. His body's gone through a lot, that traveling schedule. He's not looking to work that heavy schedule. So this...
Well, if anything, they'll just have him sit in catering.
Now there's no guarantee that they could be called up to the main roster as well. We've seen them work out particular guys and gals on dark matches only to future endeavor them within a couple of weeks. So who knows?
Well, remember, Ciampa had that mini run before that Mania, 3 or 4 years ago when they brought up him, Gargano. Before that Mania, there was a couple others they brought up, and then they shift them back down, and then they forced them. Aleister Black was one of them, and they forced the tag team. That little thing, and it's just like it made no sense. So now what are you going to do with it? Not
the first time that the company looked at those two either. They also worked a MSG house match back the day after Christmas as well, on the 26th. So they're definitely looking to see where they could fit those guys in when it comes to the main roster. Looks like Walter could very well be coming to either the main roster to NXT 2.0 on more of a permanent basis soon, as he was set for his final WWE NXT UK match. That's for next week. So looks like Walter's ready to make the jump here to the States and finally get that off his list and, see where it goes.
And Vince pigeonhole him into the foreign heel character that he hasn't had in a while. I mean, that's what he's going to do with him. Unfortunately, he's going to put him into that, and it's going to be America versus the world. Here we go.
Jeff Hardy, he's been on the road lately doing his music thing.
Yeah.
He was actually in my hometown of Rockford a couple of weeks ago at the Dusty Boots.
That's right.
Yeah. No, Jeff Hardy, as everyone knows, he recently got released by the company after an incident in the house show down in Texas that led to the company sending him home, and then he reportedly turned down their offer to go to rehab. So he got released, but Fightful Select, they reported earlier this week that the former WWE champion originally had been planned to be the shaman of MSK and NXT.
Okay.
Now, this is just days before the reveal of who that person was. Hardy ended up getting let go by the company. So the company, if you remember, they end up bringing Matt Riddle in for that role.
Yeah.
And then they rushed that to try to make it work, and it just,
it's strange.
Especially after Riddle has already gotten comfortable in the Arcane Bro thing. Like, I don't want to see Riddle involved in anything else. But, that is supposed to be, so.
Because I saw other people, too, were saying it was going to be RVD as well. So they were kind of throwing that name out there. But I could see Jeff Hardy more than RVD, obviously, with the company right now.
Drew McIntyre. We'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into the SmackDown review part of it. But Drew McIntyre reportedly dealing with the neck injury. They've run an angle where Happy Corbin and Matt Cat Moss took him out at the Day 1 pay-per-view. But it's being reported that McIntyre, he was written off with that kind of thing because he was actually nursing a legitimate injury. Dave Meltzer reporting from the Wrestling Observer newsletter that McIntyre had been having a nagging neck injury for about months now, and the plan for him was to get examined over the course of the next week. And Meltzer also added that WWE is hopeful that McIntyre, he'll be back in time for WrestleMania if he can avoid surgery, since the procedure would keep him on the shelf for months. There's also talk they're hoping that they can get him back as soon as the Rumble. But that might be pushing a little bit. And my thing is, if you don't have any plans of McIntyre winning the thing again, then I can deal with McIntyre sitting it out. Because there's only a handful of guys, honestly, that could legitimately, that you could see credibly winning the Royal Rumble.
Well, one of the rumors, though, for Mania is he's part of the main event triple threat match. So I don't know if that meant him winning the Rumble or how he would get in, how they're planning to get in that match. But, I mean, if you have plans figured him to be in the big main event picture, you can sit him out right now, rest him up, save him for your big main event. You can write him in or figure him in somehow after the Rumble.
Little too soon for another Reigns-McIntyre match, I would imagine right now. I was thinking the way
they're going to throw him in with Lesnar. It would be Reigns, Lesnar, and McIntyre from what I've been hearing as a triple threat. And I'm like, because I guess all guys have history with Drew beating Brock for the belt, and obviously Reigns and with all that. So I mean, it would be interesting. I think it's too much going on, but
yeah. With him being out, we'll see where creative goes, because I feel that the McIntyre injury also has a little something to do with Seth Rollins now. As we found out on SmackDown, he's going to challenge Roman Reigns for the Rumble, and we'll talk about that in terms of Seth Rollins, because there apparently were plans with him as it had to do with Day 1.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that here. Now, WWE, reportedly, PJ, I know you love these type of topics. The company has now officially added a new term to the list of banned phrases. Want to get a wild guess? You've only been picking and making fun of it all week.
Pay-per-view is banned, right?
Pay-per-view is no longer being used by the company.
But it was mentioned in Charlotte's promo tonight.
It was, yes.
I wonder if that was a rib.
Last Saturday's WWE Day 1 pay-per-view event that was billed as the inaugural WWE Premium Live event. They began using that in various website articles and tweets related to the event. Now, word from the Wrestling Observer newsletter is that pay-per-view and PPV, it's now been banned. So that goes for commentary and elsewhere except for Charlotte Flair.
Well, I guess it is time, because who the hell...
No one's actually calling up the cable company and saying, hey, I want to fork over.
I know there's a little audience out there that, you can't subscribe or you don't have good internet connection. You can't get it that way, but I guess it is time to move on. I don't know why we have to call them anything and just say it's going to be on Peacock, and that's just what it is. But I guess we still have to name it something.
All right, WWE SmackDown. This was going to be the first one of 2022, and the awaiting of the Tribal Chief.
Yes.
The one that we are to acknowledge, Roman Reigns. It was already expected that he was going to be there after sitting out last week's and the last, about 10 days or so due to testing positive for COVID. The show kicks off. Reigns comes out. There's no Heyman. There's no Usos. It's just him by himself. And I got to say, as I'm watching this, you know that he's a star. You know he is. Mm-hmm. But under the current heel Roman Reigns gimmick, him by himself, I'm sorry, many of you may disagree, but it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
The package of him by himself coming out there, he now looks like, and you start to kind of see it a little tidbits a little bit with this whole thing. It kind of seemed like they're trying to play it as he's the babyface in this. But, Reigns by himself didn't really work for me. He didn't have that sizzle. So he gets into the ring. He grabs the mic. He speaks a little bit. He says that he hopes that two people that he for sure never has to see again ever in his life, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. That's when, of course, the Beast music hits, and both Brock and Heyman, they make their way to the ring. Paul immediately grabs the mic, and he's going to start with the intro, but immediately Brock snatches it from him and does his Paul Heyman impersonation. Did it pretty damn good, right? Yeah. In Roman Reigns' face. This got a nice pop from the crowd. People were really liking Smiley Brock.
Yeah, I am.
So he ended up mocking Roman in the process. He cut his own Paul Heyman impersonation with the intro of himself, gave the mic back, or actually kept the mic and proposed to Roman and that they give the people what they want. That's a champ versus champ match. He said they both got what they wanted, and that's the World Championship, which technically no, because there can only be one world champ.
Yes.
But we've got two world champion belts.
Well, that's why I said put the title on the line. I mean, if that's where we're going with Mania, I'm for it. If they unify this damn thing, I mean, I was happy to hear that floated out there tonight, so hopefully that's the big idea, what we're heading into.
Roman Reigns, he said, although he found it to be a great idea, but it's not his idea. Yeah. And because the fact that it's not his ideal, it's his show, what he says is what goes. Yes. And he says that he especially doesn't do business with people who associate themselves with trash like Paul Heyman.
Yes.
And at that point, Brock Lesnar said, well, Paul Heyman said, well, hey, and Paul Heyman tries to basically profess his love for Roman Reigns and says without him, Roman doesn't get to where he is. He's very emotional. Brock cuts him off, tells him to shut up. Now, Brock says, don't say that about him. Don't be mean to Paul.
Yeah.
Paul gets emotional about Roman. Yeah. Brock tells Paul to shut up. Yeah. Roman says, don't talk to him like that.
Yes.
And this becomes a back and forth. Now these two, Paul's in between his two guys. Well, technically, Roman's not his guy, but he's in between his two main guys who are now trying to stick up like, only I will verbally abuse you. You can't do it. It's kind of like that kind of thing. Anyways, as Brock turns back to Paul, Roman takes the opportunity to hit him with a Superman punch. Heyman looks in shock, and Roman leaves the ring and goes up the ramp as Brock lays there in the middle of the ring, and Heyman's still looking in shock. So they are already giving you this storyline that Paul is going to be playing both sides.
Yes, again.
And he's confused and doesn't know what to do. He's playing both sides.
I'm for it. I'm liking it. I do like it. I know I'm with you that something seemed missing when Roman was coming out because we've been so accustomed to it and used to it, but I still think it was strong on the promo, and how this is going to work, this dynamic, I'm still for it.
After this, backstage, we got Sami Zayn, who was being interviewed about his upcoming match with Rick Boogs. Now, he's not getting the IC champion Nakamura. He continued to go on about how it is a belt that he never lost. So Sami Zayn is still on that. He talked about Rick Boogs. And then we get Johnny Knoxville in this shot here, who Sami Zayn tries to explain that this is pro wrestling. This isn't Jackass. This is pro wrestling. There's a lot that it takes to make it in this business. But Johnny Knoxville says that when it comes to the Royal Rumble, Doesn't matter what you know about pro wrestling. All you got to do is just throw people over the ropes.
Yep.
So we get our match of Sami Zayn versus Rick Boogs. Boogs got on the offensive end through the first commercial break. We come back from the break. Zayn gained some offense. Boogs, there was a spot in this match that I thought was very impressive. Boogs held Zayn up in the air for quite a while for a suplex. Zayn kneed him in the head a couple of times, brought Boogs down to his knees while still holding Zayn, and was still with the strength able to get back up and still pull off the superplex. That was a
hell of a spot by both guys, too, because it was Sami to show that he was fighting and Boogs to just keep him up there.
It's an amazing spot. We get to the outside, and we get Zayn, who's jaw-jacking with Nakamura. He rolls back into the ring, and he's a little too distracted with Nakamura. Boogs hits him with the almighty roll-up for the 1-2-3 win.
He hooked the leg. I'll give him that with this.
Okay.
He hooked the leg.
He hooked the leg, but Rick Boogs scoring the upset victory over Sami Zayn. After this, Boogs, he rolls out. He and Nakamura, they're ringside. Zayn is still distracted. He's jaw-jacking with now both of them. As he's distracted, we get Johnny Knoxville, who runs from the back, sneaks from behind Sami Zayn, throws him over the ropes, and then it is announced that Johnny Knoxville from Jackass will now be entered into the Royal Rumble.
We got to promote that movie that's coming out in February. That's basically what it is. I mean, I will say, if it is Knoxville, they should be able to lay it in. Be a little stiff with him, the way. Because they're Jackass guys. They want it the way it should be, so we'll see in the Rumble if they take some liberties with him or not.
After this, we go backstage again. There's an interview. Kayla Braxton, she is chatting with the New Day. This is to promote the tag team street fight that they're going to be getting against the Usos for the belts. After this, we get Charlotte Flair, who makes her way down to the ring. Go to a commercial break. We come back. She's on the mic. And she begins to unleash some of the Royal Rumble participants that will be upcoming. Now, we got some of the main ones that you would expect. The Rhea Ripleys. We've got Nikki Ash. We got Carmella. We got Zelina Vega. But then we got...
And I'm good with those. That's fine. Put those up there.
But then we decided to dip into the Flash from the past. The Bellas. Both Nikki and Brie will be a part of this Rumble. Kelly was announced to be a part of this Rumble. Hall of Famer Lita is going to be a part of this. Summer Rae. And it appears that the forbidden door has been opened, and WWE is once again working with Impact Wrestling because their current Knockout Women's Champion, Mickie James, and they refer to her as the Impact Wrestling Knockout Women's Champion. Mickie James will be in this Rumble, and they've made it social media official. They've mentioned that she's – so they've mentioned Impact Wrestling, and as everyone knows, this is not the first time they've done business with Impact Wrestling. They did it a couple of years ago to show some of the documentary footage with Kurt Angle. They had Dixie Carter a part of that. And then, of course, the famous story about the Ric Flair to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Of anyone that they could have had, they got Christian Cage for their pay-per-view because he and Dixie had a very close relationship due to their love for cats.
Yes. And some of the online reaction was great because I saw some of the people saying, hey, they actually have now, Impact has got more love from WWE than they have with AEW the whole run. And it's kind of true. They never really mentioned Impact Champion or whatever. I mean, they would show the belt on there and everything, but they didn't really give them the love like this announcement on major network TV. So we'll see what happens. But again, this kind of kills Rumble surprises. That's what we love for the Rumble. Surprise. Guess who it is? You already leaked about 6 names that are, okay. Well, there goes the surprise.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler, Tamina, Natalya, they're also going to be a part of that as well. Charlotte Flair, she went on. She said it, she gave props. She said it was an action-stacked lineup for the Rumble. But she's going to do something that no champ has done before. She's going to enter herself into the Rumble, and she plans to win it. Therefore, she can handpick her own opponent for WrestleMania. At this time, Naomi's music hits. Naomi enters and says that why wait until the Rumble? She wants a match right now tonight. So Charlotte says, hey, you're a former champ. but what have you done lately? And Naomi says, well, I've done this. And she just slapped. She put it in. She laid it in. She just slapped the shit out of Charlotte. And that's when we go to commercial break. We come back, and, of course, the match is set. We get a match of Charlotte versus Naomi. We fast forward this. We're on the outside, and these two are brawling with one another. And it appears that Naomi wins this. She beats the count. She beats Charlotte back into the ring, so Naomi assumes that she has beat the champ via count out. That's when Sonya Deville comes out and says the match cannot be won by count out. So at least they're still sticking to the fact that Naomi has issues with Sonya, and I was afraid that they were going to try to make you forget all about that.
Yeah.
So Sonya sticks her nose into this match and makes the stipulation as we go, the match cannot be won by count out. That's when Flair from behind, she attacks Naomi. She locks in a figure four at one point. And after this, we get Sonya also making the stipulation that this match also cannot be won by DQ either. So that also puts
she was
Naomi
reaching for the ropes.
She was reaching for the ropes, yeah. So we got that, and eventually Charlotte wins this match.
Yeah, eventually, and it's fun to see the DeVille character again with her and Charlotte. I know it was more the Naomi dynamic, but remember they were teasing maybe being linked together earlier this year, so I guess it was good to see them back together.
We end up getting a backstage segment of the Usos lying to us. And I say lying because they talked about how, and they gave credit to the New Day, but they said this was going to be the final battle.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
And you know that ain't gonna happen. How many times we hear about that about Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we got that 8 o'clock segment that you were talking about, this awful trash of Happy Corbin for Happy Talk. Madcap Moss, he comes out, Madcap Moss, that is. He comes out and he's mocking McIntyre, Drew McIntyre. He's got the get-up in a very goofy way. He's coming out with a sword and the kilt, which looked like a kitchen gown or whatever. I don't know what the hell that was. But anyways, they're in the ring. It was just really an awful attempt at, and the crowd was not into this. And they tried to save this segment by bringing out the Viking Raiders. And it still really didn't do anything. They're getting ready to go to commercial break. Pat McAfee, before the break, makes a comment there. He makes a dig saying they lost 2 million viewers during that segment, which this company would be lucky. They would gladly consistently take 2 million viewers a week. Yeah. I don't know how shit like that. I don't know how they're going to draw 2 million for this year of 2022. We ended up, the match, this was nothing special. Corbin and Moss, they end up winning this match against the Viking Raiders.
No, and again, Viking Raiders, they're turned into jobbers. Big 300-pound tag team jobbers.
They're announced at a weight of 590-something. I'm like, man, that's a lie.
Yeah.
You were going a little light on these brothers.
Yeah, big time. One's 400 and one's 200.
So after this really awful segment of Madcap Moss and Corbin and the whole tag team match, we get a backstage segment. Because, of course, we did.
Need to.
We get Sonya Deville, who catches up with Adam Pearce, and Pearce lets her know that he had met with WWE executives, and they right now are shitting their pants because of the fact that their champ on SmackDown doesn't have an opponent for the Rumble, since Lesnar is now the current champion for Raw.
Yes.
So Pearce lets it be known that they need an opponent for Reigns for the Rumble, and he is going to be the person to handpick that opponent for Roman Reigns, and we'll find out at the end of the night. He'll have a decision made.
But again, this is just the dynamic of them both working on both shows. It's just strange right now, or they could not split them up. One's on one show, one's on another. There could have been so much more done, but they didn't go that route.
They didn't, but we get a segment immediately after that. We see Sheamus, who talks about the injury that his boy Ridge Holland suffered in a match at day one due to Ricochet just completely smashing his fucking face in. Sheamus basically just kind of talked about Drew McIntyre a little bit, talked about the whole Ricochet Ridge Holland thing, and Sheamus threw his name into the hat. Of course, he's going to be in the Rumble.
May as well. You need them in there. You need stars, or what we have of stars so far. So, I mean, you can just, everyone on the main roster is going to be in there.
Then we get our main event match, PJ, of the New Day. The challengers taking on the champions, the Usos. This is a tag team street fight match.
The 18th street fight they've had in their history, I think, of matches, at least.
I will at least say Yes, I like Macaulay Culkin and a lot of other fans. It's nothing against these two teams. They work well together.
Yes, they do.
When their careers are over and you say who were their biggest nemesis, their biggest rivals, they will be synonymous. They will be tied to the hip to one another forever.
Yes.
However, this must stop. We must keep them away from one another. We kick off this match. The New Day, they take the advantage. They send the Usos off to the outside. We go into a break. We come back from the break, and the Usos are trying to make their way up the ramp. They're trying to run away like the true chicken shit champion heels that they are. The New Day, they catch him. They bring him back to ringside where the Usos get a little bit of offense in on the outside, but they eventually get this match back into the ring. We get a spot here in the match where Xavier Woods is held down by the Usos on the ropes, and he gets duct taped.
Yes.
It would not be the only time in one night, though, that we would see tape being used. More on that later. Yeah, so we got duct tape going. They tie him to the ropes. So after Kofi, he frees Woods. We get to the outside, and the Usos, they nail Kofi in the face with some stairs, and then didn't even realize that Woods was actually over
I think
gate.
it was the first ever spot with stairs in the crowd ever.
I never ever seen this. I had no idea that Woods was on the other side of the rails, but the Usos, the twins, they bring the stairs over the gate into the crowd, and they whack Woods' ass in the face too.
That's the thing you got to say about when these two get together for street fights. You usually see something you haven't seen before, and I got to give them props. They did. I can't pull out a bunch of shit in this one.
They've always had great matches. I don't think anything will touch their Elimination Chamber match.
No, that was still
that
best.
one was an absolute doozy, a classic. But after that break, we come back, and we see both Kofi and Woods. They're starting to rock the Spartan gear.
Yes. It's a street fight. It's not a kendo stick.
No,
I'm good with it.
No,
I'm good with it.
The Spartan gear that comes out, that comes into play. We get, I want to say, Jay, who attempts a super kick into the head of Woods, who has on his helmet. It doesn't faze him whatsoever. They both nail him with the armor. The crowd then starts chanting. They want tables, PJ.
Yes.
You thought that the crowd was out of it, but no, this big jolt of energy. They want tables. The New Day, they go outside and they grab them. And they get back on the inside of the ring. Jay goes for a dive at Kofi. The table's been set up. Kofi gets out of the way, hits him with the Trouble in Paradise. And then we get some super kicks to Kofi. And then the Usos, to end this match, deliver a 3D to Kofi through the table for the 1, 2, 3. So a lot of Dudley Boys homage being paid in this.
The 1D now, one and done. Yes, that's what they're going with. They're paying homage to him. Bully Ray and Devon, they signed off on it. They love it. So here we go.
Yeah, so there you go. Your winners and still the champions of the tag team division, the company, the Usos. Now, we still had a little bit of time left. There was about 3 or 4 minutes left. So, of course, we had to cut to the back. We see Roman Reigns, who is sitting alone on the couch. There's a knock at the door. The door opens, and Roman looks down in disappointment and also disgust. And then we find out why. Well, it's his old running mate from the Shield, Seth Rollins, who appears and just starts cackling.
Like he does now.
Insane.
Yes.
Seth freaking Rollins pretty much is going to be the challenger for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. Now, according to Dave Meltzer, the original plan was that Rollins was actually going to be the winner of that four-way at day one before Lesnar was thrown into it.
Wow. Okay.
So Rollins, the idea was that Rollins was most likely going to be for the Raw side going into Mania with the title, and the challenger would have either been either Big E or Lashley, or maybe a combination of a triple threat with maybe Owens and Big E and Lashley, whatever.
Yeah.
But, there was an audible that was called. I'm thinking maybe the Drew McIntyre thing had a little something to do with it.
Yeah.
And, of course, the COVID, the positive test, having you're going to put Brock in that match. He's got to, they felt they need to put the belt on him.
And there was a loose end Rollins Reigns angle earlier right after Mania when they put Cesaro up there for that one match against him.
And this was
then Rollins they teased maybe a Rollins-Reigns potential showdown.
This was something we talked about last year on the Bush League Mud Show. We talked about how if you couldn't get Rock and you couldn't get Brock back for this year's Mania in time to face Roman, Seth would have been a quality opponent. Maybe that this was the direction they would go in. Well, they're going into it for 2022. They're just going into it at the Rumble.
I'm fine with it. I'm good.
Which tells me that Brock, like you had mentioned earlier this week, Brock probably for sure now is going to be losing that belt at the Rumble.
I would
in the match last year.
One of or maybe they're flipping it around. Maybe now they said, well, shit, we've got this on the Raw brand. Maybe we're going to turn it this way, and they're giving Seth the SmackDown. I don't know, but we think one of the belts is going to get lost here at Rumble.
AEW news and tidbits. There's not a lot here really to go over with AEW. A lot of their stuff was surrounding the debut of TBS to kick off 2022 this past week. We already gave you the review. If you want to check that out, Bush League Mud Show on YouTube. We give you our rundown and our thoughts and opinions about the Dynamite on TBS. But we got some news earlier in the evening that AEW will be crowning an interim TNT champion at the Battle of the Belts this weekend because, according to reports, Cody Rhodes has been pulled due to what's being called a medical protocol. They ended up making this official on AEW Rampage that Rhodes will not be cleared medically to compete against Sammy Guevara. He is the current TNT champion. And boy, being a person of higher power in the company definitely has its perks because taking his place facing Sammy Guevara will be his brother, Dustin Rhodes, and the winner will be the interim TNT champion.
Just pull the match. What? I mean, you weren't...
Well, I smell ladder match.
I guess.
I smell ladder match. I smell Cody coming back saying I didn't lose the belt. And how...
Don't even stop the match. This wasn't a draw anyways. This match was not drawing anyone tomorrow night. We looked at the TV programming for tomorrow night. They're going head-to-head against the Dallas Cowboys football game on ESPN. They're not. I'm sorry, diehard AEW fans. I am sorry, but this was not. This was crickets. No one would have fucking noticed it. Pull the damn match. You could have put something else on the card and just say. And then in this time, when you just saw the other, is this just a response because, well, the other company's main star last week, he did not wrestle in front of that live crowd because he tested positive for COVID, and he wasn't there, so now we have to show him that we're going to put that belt up no matter what? I mean, stop it. Just this, we wanted. Well, not really.
It's not like you're pressed for time either,
no,
right? You're running it on your stream on Bleacher. Is this going to be? No. This is going to be
the damn thing on
TNT. Sorry. Battle of the Belts. Battle of the Belts. Yeah,
it's going to get buried. It's for viewing. You're not picking up any outside fans on this.
There's no word yet right now on when Cody will be cleared to return to action or when they will actually have him face the interim TNT champion. So. The medical issue, it had not, at least up to this point, had not been confirmed by AEW, but it's being reported that it is likely related to COVID. So updates that we hopefully will be getting.
Is he only defending this on those TNT pay-per-views now? Is that why they're in a big huss about this, to try to get this thing off him since he can't compete? Is that the only place you will see the TNT belt face on these 4 or 5 TNT shows they're supposed to have? Instead of on the TV on regular Dynamite? I mean, Rampage is still open. I just don't understand this. I don't understand why they can't just postpone the match.
I think that they're also maybe going to try to use this to add some sauce to this angle between Rhodes and Guevara. How often, until Danielson and Page, how often were we actually getting rematches over belts? We weren't really.
We weren't. Yeah.
We weren't.
And we might not anymore.
To take that belt off of Guevara, a lot of people think that was a little too soon, and I kind of agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, you had only just put it on him just a couple of months prior. So, and of all people to have him lose it to fucking Cody, who wasn't anywhere near any kind of picture to be winning any kind of fucking belts.
No.
So that threw people for a loop. So maybe this is just to add I smell some type of stipulation, some type of Viagra on a pole match for this belt. I'm going to assume ladder match. Cody can use it. Although he wants to be a babyface so bad. That's a heel thing to do, to come out and say, I never lost the belt.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. Since he can't challenge still for the big title.
Are we going to make a fake replica TNT
this is going to be a
championship belt?
May as well. Throw it in the angle. I know you can pick up a lot of the championship belts at Walmart, so, I mean, they still have those on the shelves.
No,
maybe we get that going.
Oh, PJ is always hating from the sidelines. I love it. That's why we got you on the show. No, I'm with you, though. I that's the only thing I can really think of is that they just want to add a layer, add some sauce. Sammy Guevara is winning. Dustin has nothing to prove. Dustin gains nothing by winning this, and I don't even know if the crowd wants to see the two Rhodes brothers go at it.
I don't know. Right now, no. I don't. I know
they've already had a match. A couple of years ago. They had a great match.
Yeah, but I don't know, especially this go around. Right now, it's kind of toxic, the Rhodes name, and I think they just got to go away for a little bit and come back. Not Dustin, but I think Cody. If you're going to do the TV thing and the Hollywood thing and all that stuff, I mean, take some time off.
Yeah. There's speculation that there is a new AEW trademark, and that trademark is going to be for the former Undisputed Era stable of Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. The company filed on January 3rd, PJ, they filed the trademarks for the name Paragon, as well as a potential logo for the group. Now, the Paragon, if that sounds familiar, that is because O'Reilly did make a mention of this Paragon thing. He used the term in a promo back on an episode of Dynamite the week before, the 29th. So a new name is going to be required because Undisputed Era, that is trademarked and owned by WWE.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you knew that wasn't coming over. Even though how much they're trying to destroy NXT right now, that's still their intellectual property they still own. Paragon, huh? That's what we're rolling with.
Yeah, Paragon is assumed that that's what they're going to use it for. It's going to be for those three. How long those three are going to be together, I don't know. Like, I'm already kind of a little confused on what now we know that they're not going to have much to do with the Young Bucks at some point. Are you looking up Paragon right now?
I am. It is a noun. It is a person or thing regarded as a perfect example of a particular quality. Example, it would have taken a paragon of virtue not to feel viciously jealous. Or it's a person or thing viewed as a model of excellence.
Here's the thing. I don't have an issue with the trademark name if you're going to use it for those guys. Here's my only thing. It sounds too close to Pinnacle.
Correct. And Paradigm Shift.
And Paradigm?
Just the finisher for one of your top whatever the hell you're going to bring them back as.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that. Well, we might as well just talk about it right now. Jon Moxley, who got an update here in terms of when he might be potentially returning to appear on AEW television. And this has been talked about apparently multiple sources. This is according to Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net that's reporting that Moxley could be appearing on AEW television sooner than later, perhaps as soon as next week. Now, we were thinking hopefully the first episode for TBS. Didn't happen for Rampage and doesn't look likely for Battle of the Belts. So people are assuming that eventually soon we'll see Jon Moxley. Now, in terms of Moxley's been off television for the last couple of months. He put himself in inpatient alcohol treatment. But he's going to be returning to action. He is still currently right now the GCW champion, and there's a number one contender for that belt that he currently still holds, and that has been named. There's a match that's been named for the company's Hammerstein Ballroom show on the 23rd of January. So my thing is, And as of right now, it appears that Ring of Honor World Champ, or former Ring of Honor World Champ Homicide, has been named as the challenger for that match. But if that show's on the 23rd, I would hope that we do see Moxley. Doesn't need to work. He doesn't need to just come out or what, make his presence known before the 23rd, because I do feel that AEW and Tony Khan, that they do deserve first dibs. If you're going to have him showing up anywhere first, it should be an AEW.
Yeah, it should be. That's how it is. But I know they like to pride themselves on their let them work wherever they want to work and do dates. But I know there were some issues that they had with some guys, and they pulled them back off of those. But you're right. You're on the new network on TBS now. You got to premiere one of your big guys there first, because if he's showing up at some damn mall or whatever the hell they run, Hammerstein, obviously a good place, but some of these places where they have some of these damn matches, you're like, what the hell is he doing? So yeah, it'd be nice to see him on Dynamite.
Jade Cargill on the TBS Dynamite. She became the first TBS Women's Champion. According to some reports, there were some people in AEW that reportedly wanted to change the tournament plans and not have her win it. This was known that AEW, they had first announced the TBS title back in October. PW Insider is reporting that the plan from the start was for Cargill to win this tournament. They had already handpicked that she was going to win this thing, be crowned the champion. But there are reports that have come out that said that there were some that were pushing against it because of Big Swole. Now, this didn't have anything to do with the back and forth between her and Khan, but it had more to do with the fact that Big Swole, back in the early elements of the tournament, had already pretty much put out a tweet saying that it'll be Jade, basically. Swole,
so just to swerve themselves? I mean,
yes. Big Swole had put it out there that it shouldn't be a real big surprise, that we should all know that it would be Jade Cargill. So because of that, a lot of people felt that maybe they should go in a different direction. Not really. There's no word on who those people were, but it appears that people were thinking maybe there was some heat between Swole and Jade, and it appears there's not. There was even a friendly Twitter exchange between the two following Cargill's win. But yeah, the company just kind of wanted to swerve a little bit just because they didn't want to plant that seed in everybody's the obvious that Jade Cargill would probably win. They were trying to maybe find a different destination to get there eventually with her and the belt. But
sometimes you can just outthink yourself, because if you programmed her with Shaq, big things are coming. I mean, that's the thing. You put her with one of the biggest celebrities that they have, especially on that network, on TNT at the time, and with the NBA. Big things are coming Jade's way, and that's why I thought she was winning the belt the whole time, is if you put her in that, in her debut and all that, she's got to win a title soon, and here she is.
Yeah. AEW Rampage. They recorded this, of course, after Dynamite Wednesday night. So this was still going down in New York, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. This show kicked off immediately with Adam Cole versus Jake Atlas. We had seen on Dynamite, Cole was already referencing that he was going to be facing Atlas in two nights' time on Rampage. This is the match that we got. Cole comes out first, followed by Atlas. Start off this match with a showcase of technical skills between the two. Jake Atlas then began to taunt at Cole, which Cole didn't really take too kindly. We get into this match. Atlas, he attempted a springboard off the ropes, and Cole was able to catch him with a backstabber in midair. And then Cole on the offensive ended up doing what I thought looked like kind of like an awkward brain buster on the knee. But what they ended up doing was they start selling Jake Atlas's knee, bothering him. And then they had in this match Atlas blowing out his knee on a springboard jump off the ropes. Cole took advantage, hit a knee bar for the win. After the match, we see Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly all together in the ring. They're about to clean up the bones of Jake Atlas, who's nursing the knee injury. And that's when the music of Orange Cassidy hits, and Cassidy and Best Friends, they come down for the runoff.
Yeah, the ultimate badasses you would think would be able to run anyone
Cassidy
off.
With a chain, by the way. Came down with a Mr. T-type chain.
3 other guys against him. It is what it is.
After this match, we got that official word about Cody not being medically cleared for the match at Battle of the Belts. It's going to be his brother Dustin replacing him to take on Sammy Guevara, and the winner becoming the interim TNT champion. Maybe, you know what? Maybe this is also an excuse. Maybe, Cody probably is legitimately sick. It probably is COVID-related.
Yeah.
But how many people were in the back maybe saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't have taken this belt off Sammy anyways, and this is an excuse to put it back on him when they shouldn't have taken it off?
Well, they did that match Christmas night, right? I mean, it was not a memorable match. I mean, that's the thing, or time slot. So people forgot probably that he was on it. So they're probably trying to if they are thinking that way, trying to sneak it back on him, on Sammy this way.
Afterwards, we get a backstage segment. Tony Schiavone, he's standing back there with Andrade. Andrade is mocking, taking digs at the relationship between Darby Allin and Sting. So now we've started to plant those breadcrumbs of where this is going. You're going to see Andrade and Darby in a match at some point. And perhaps Sting as well. Who knows? I don't know.
It's always the third wheel involved.
Hey,
For this guy that's coming in, well, that's with Alistair, so I don't know.
Yeah, Andrade is, back with Charlotte. Maybe they never broke up anyways.
No.
And, of course, he's got that inkling, that end with Rick. Rick's still good friends with Sting. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just reaching here, but we definitely will be at some point getting an Andrade-Darby Allin match.
Well, was the assistant shown back?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so they haven't shutted that out yet. So,
yes.
Okay, I guess.
After that, we get our next match. This is Hook, the undefeated Hook in his third
it's his
match.
Show.
Yes.
Rampage is Hook's show.
He's getting the loudest ovations. Hook versus Aaron Solo, which they've got as certain individuals, they don't need to show the records. Showing me that Aaron Solo has a 13-25 record. You would think that QT Marshall would dump this chump by now.
You would think so, but apparently but
QT can't win matches himself.
Yes.
So Aaron Solo, he's coming out there with QT Marshall. They both had cut a backstage promo on Dynamite, kind of getting on Hook. QT saying that the only thing that Hook ever did in his wrestling school, which we thought Cody was training him. Yeah. At least that's the story that we were told, but it turns out that it's QT Marshall the entire time that was training Hook, but he said all he ever did was sit there and eat chips and stretch people. Well, we got into this match. We got some commentary. Too many people on commentary, by the way. We got Excalibur. We got Taz. We got Ricky Starks. We got Chris Jericho. But they were putting Taz's boy over huge, big time.
But it was strange, too, that Taz was just sitting there, and he's a member of his group, and he's just having them sit out there when there were other things going around in this match where you would think, if my kid was out there and I saw some of the shit.
Would you be out there cheating for your boy?
Well, if I saw QT grab his goddamn leg, I'm running my ass
would
down
you
to
run
the ring
out there?
and clear him out.
Would you do the Cowboy Bob at Mania and hit Taker in the head with the cast?
Yes,
Is that
damn
you?
right I would. Get him. Fucker ain't fucking with my kid. Get him out of here. See, I didn't understand that. And here you have Taz just sitting back, calling it cool and collective on commentary and say, well, that's a heel thing to do by QT. It's just like, get your ass. This is strange. You should be down there. He's part of your faction anyways, so why aren't you down there? I didn't
So
get
is
it.
Ricky Starks.
Exactly.
Starks
I didn't. Either one of them could have got QT the hell out of there so he would stop fucking being a distraction to him in the match.
Yeah, as PJ mentioned, we got that interference from QT on the outside. He grabbed Hook's leg. Hook turned his attention to QT. Aaron Solo, he ended up taking advantage of the opportunity. It didn't last long, though. This was, even though Hook is not a big, massive guy, he's not thick and stocky like his father, this was a display of submission moves and slams by Hook on Solo throughout the match. He got a loud ovation. And eventually Hook won, and after the match, QT, he got in the ring and ended up getting his ass plexed as well by Hook. That got a huge pop from the crowd because they love Hook and they can't stand the sight of QT Marshall.
Yeah.
And
Hook is good in the ring. I got to give it to him. He's got great movement in the ring.
Well, he's got an amateur background. If he's Taz's kid, he's got an amateur background.
Yeah.
He's wrestled in high school. He's done all that stuff, I'm sure. After that, we get Ricky Starks. They shine the light on him, who's at the commentary table, and he announces that after talking to Tony Khan, there were some complaints that the FTW title had not really been defended recently.
That's right. He still has that.
Yes, he still has it. So Ricky Starks was there to announce that there will be a match at Battle of the Belts for the FTW belt between he and Matt Sydal.
Matt Sydal, the company chopper.
After this, we get our tag team match. Our next match, we get Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho and Riho. Really not much to really talk about with this. This was mostly something to just kind of get us the Battle of the Belts. Baker defending the belt against Riho throughout this match. Now, Riho, she ended up defeating Hayter on the pin, in which commentary the entire time they talked about how Baker's never pinned Riho. So that can only mean one thing, PJ, that tomorrow night at Battle of the Belts, Britt Baker will be pinning Riho.
Hopefully, yes.
Now, Baker got really upset the fact that Hayter ate the pin on this, and after the match, she ended up leaving her in the ring. So,
some more of those breadcrumbs of that breakup coming.
Yeah. We get a backstage segment. Dan Lambert and Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. This is basically a dig at what they called Tony Khan's terrible booking. They were shitting on that the entire time and said that tomorrow night at Battle of the Belts, they will be keeping an eye on the TNT Championship match.
Great.
You've got a tag team.
Yes.
So who's calling dibs on who's getting
Exactly. Scorpio was the guy that we thought should have had the pay-per-view match with Darby at the time, and they put on a hell of a match. But then after that match, he got into this failing faction, and now, who cares?
Based on this promo and the amount of time they gave for Scorpio Sky to talk, it appears that they're going to shine a solo light on Sky, and Sky will be dipping back into that picture here soon. So we shall see. I'm guessing they're going to be interfering. They're going to have some type of role in this match tomorrow between Destin and Sammy Guevara.
Championship match. They did this angle last year. I know they like to pick on WWE for rehashing things, but they're rehashing this angle once again.
We get our main event match, which Mark Henry didn't have enough time. He eventually did. Our main event match was Eddie Kingston teaming up with Santana and Ortiz versus Danny Garcia and 2.0. The match that you've been waiting for. We know how much you love 2.0, PJ.
Yeah.
Didn't take long. Mark Henry's in the middle of interviewing both the baby faces and the heels. Didn't take long for Kingston's Santana and Ortiz to find Garcia and 2.0 in the back. They start brawling. And then as this brawl is going on in the back, Mark Henry still gets his tagline out there. It's time for the main event. This match, the brawl spills into the arena finally. They get into the ring. Eddie Kingston, he's got a trash can. He begins hitting Garcia in the head with it. And then we get Ortiz and Lee. They're brawling in the crowd. Parker and Santana, they're at ringside brawling. This match was all over the fucking place, man. This was a no-holds-barred match, six-man match. We get a spot in this match with Eddie Kingston, who was just loving the shit out of this trash can. He adds the trash can to the balls of Danny Garcia and begins to stomp on the damn trash can. Then starts beating the shit out of him, hitting him with the trash can. Then he placed it over Garcia's head and then start kicking the trash can. So the trash can was his best friend. We got a frog splash out of Santana for a 2 count. Parker broke that up. And then we got Lee throwing powder into Santana's face, hit him with a DDT for a 2 count. After that, we got a spot here, 2.0. They're holding Eddie Kingston as Garcia goes out to the outside and grabs the bell, the ring bell from the outside. They run back inside. They nail Kingston in the fucking head with a ring bell, and they get a 2 count.
Just a 2.
So even a ring bell can't take anyone out anymore.
No, he didn't hit him square with it. It must have been just like the wood part.
2.0 and Garcia, they eventually get a triple suplex on Kingston through the timekeeper's table on the outside. Then we get some chair shots from Santana. Parker then gets hit with a bunch of lariats and super kicks, and the win goes to Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. After the match, Garcia and 2.0, they begin to attack Kingston, Santana, Ortiz, and we get more tape. We saw tape on SmackDown.
Yes.
We get tape here. They decide to start to begin to tape Eddie Kingston. That's when Chris Jericho, who was at the commentary table, decides to leave and run down to save his buddies. End show. That was your AEW Rampage show from the Prudential Center.
Yep. Thank God Hook was on it. And I wasn't a Hook fan to begin with. I thought, looking at his body size, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's kind of small. But no, I'm a Hook believer. So I'm with that. Other than that, it was, yeah.
There you go. That is your AEW Rampage once again. And that is the end for your Bush League Mud Show episode 30. Another edition. Slade.
PJ.
Be sure to check us out wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And also like and subscribe. And also check us out on social media as well, where we get it popping there too at Bush League MS Pod. We'll talk to you guys next week.